And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting as always on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network. We're short on time here now, so I want to get right to it. One of the benchmarks of and hallmarks, if you will, of the Libertarian movement has been our kind of unique approach to fundraising and activism. We're voluntarists. To me, that means two things, and I've never quite gotten the political conversation right. But number one, I voluntarily consent to be governed. I consent, I reserve the right to withdraw at any time. But we also believe in volunteering and raising money for organizations and causes, and that quite frankly represent a contribution from the community, not through using the force and coercion of government, whether it be raising money for our own political activity or on behalf of others. So I think in one of the cooler fundraisers I've heard this year, we've got the Orange County of California Libertarian Party working with the, let's say, the Los Angeles Libertarian Party. We had a little bit of technical difficulties there, so we're going to get Angela on next week, I think. But working together, and I think one of the coolest fundraisers I've heard for a while. I'm going to let Ron Lucker introduce it. Tell us about what you're doing tonight and what you're going to use the money for, and tell us about how this event came together, because this is great stuff.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Pat. Really appreciate it. This basically is an event titled Punkers for Free Speech. We're teaming up with the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County, and it's basically a fundraiser for the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles. That's where all the funds are going. We got 6 punk bands tonight. We're playing at Surf Dogs Bar and Grill in Huntington Beach, California, and we're just looking for a really good turnout and a wonderful night of punk rock.
All right, now, so first of all, the venue is the Surf Dog Bar. First of all, that's got to be like one of the coolest names I've heard. Of course, you're talking to someone who's a Northeastern guy who, just is a complete fanboy of California. I've spent time in Huntington Beach years ago on a couple of projects. So could the name Surf Dog Bar be any cooler? And is this place as cool as I think it is?
It is. It is. It's cool because one reason is because it's very friendly to punk rock and to the libertarian movement. The owner actually was one of the original members of the South Carolina Libertarian Party. He moved out here some time ago, and when I approached him for the idea, he was all in. He loved it, and he's supporting the cause 100%. So
give me the tie-in then with free speech. As a First Amendment guy, I worship at the altar of free speech. So what was the thought process there, and what are you folks planning on using the funds for?
Okay, I didn't hear that last part, but the first part, the whole idea is that, for me, punk rock has always been very, very pro-free speech.
Right.
But it seems like the punk rock movement in general has become somewhat authoritarian and establishment. And our band 390 is just trying to help bring the basics back to punk rock, anti-establishment, anti-author, pro-free speech. So that's kind of what spurred the whole idea. And I also was just thinking one day, you know what? Why not take these two communities that have so much in common, the punk rock community and the Libertarian Party, and just kind of join them? We might meet some good friends tonight and share values, help both causes and help both scenes. So that was the initial idea of the whole scene, and I was really pleased with Angela McCardle from the Los Angeles side. She was all in. She's been very helpful. So, and the last part of your question, I think you said, where's the funds going to? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be up to the Libertarian Party. That's theirs to decide. I'm not even getting involved in that.
Okay, fair enough. What? Now, talk about your group. Give us a couple of your musical influences.
We're pretty much the old school punk. We come from an era of Sex Pistols, The Damned, all those early punk bands, but we also we're heavily influenced by the more, what you might call the more commercial type of punk, Offspring, Green Day, Bad Religion, and to a lesser extent, I won't call this group so much commercial, but heavy influence on us is Pennywise. So that's kind of our influence, where we're coming from a punk perspective.
Right. You talk about the sort of authoritarian tinge now on the punk rock movement. There's this notion now that, is it a function of skinheads infiltrating it? Is, to use the old term, or or the newer term, of course, would be alt-right. Has the alt-right movement infiltrated that much, or is that really, I don't know, Antifa and folks like that trying to perpetuate that myth? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I can only speak about the Southern California scene, and that's pretty much non-existent. It's funny, but when we experienced the punk scene in the '80s, it was violent, but it wasn't so much punk on punk as it was maybe punk on metalheads and people who just didn't like punk. But now the punk scene, it's different. It's much more, for lack of better words, it's much more mature and tolerant. So we don't have that. But what I do think we have is an acceptance of left-wing authoritarianism in the movement.
Okay.
There's a lot of that going on. Like groups like Antifa, they're still somewhat, acceptable. And I don't get it. I find them a very violent group. And, just like we kicked out the Nazis in the 80s, I don't think we should be associated with these left-wing extremists. So, but the problem I feel with the punk movement, it's become very establishment. It's become very authoritarian. I mean, there's just a lot of big government, Bernie Sanders supporting punkers. I mean, if you just want to turn to the most prominent punkers, from Henry Rollins, who always wears this punk sleeve on his shoulder, and he's talking about, fighting the establishment, yet he votes for a big government, big establishment politician named Bernie Sanders. Same with Jello Biafra, same with Fat Mike. These guys are just become establishment. They're all in for the authoritarian left, and I call them authoritarian punkers. I don't know if they think of themselves that way, but I do believe it's hurting the punk scene because the punk scene is supposed to be anti-establishment, and in many ways, it's just not holding up to that ideal.
Wow, that's an outstanding point. And you'd have to be immersed in the scene to really understand the confluences there. And you're right, guys like Rollins now, I mean, do you think they either, let me say this, most of the folks I met in the punk rock scene, particularly in the 80s into the early 90s, were, despite what people would think based on a superficial analysis, were intellectuals, were people who thought a lot about philosophy, thought a lot about the relationship between government and authority figures and art. I mean, these were people who lived a lifestyle and took it very, very seriously. So then to see that take place, that sort of migration towards, as you put it, a new left-wing authoritarian, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, do you think that they're just been blinded by it, or do you think it's cynical? Do they really believe the nonsense?
Well, I think what happened was, I think they were legitimately in the 80s and 90s anti-establishment because there was a different order back then, like you just said, out with the old boss and with the new. They were legitimately anti-authoritarian and anti-establishment. I don't think they realize that they're the establishment now. And what I've noticed about people on the extremes, there's a lack of self-examination, and I really believe that they are sincere. I just don't know if they realize that their views are largely establishment, and it just doesn't work anymore. It's kind of hard to take these guys serious when they're having supporting and advocating, big authoritarian type of politicians.
Right, because...
Does that answer your question, Pat?
Absolutely, because the sad fact is, any hard left socialist movement, which often can branch into some level of communism, the tragedy is that very often the first group of people to go, as it were, or to face harsh examination and a question of loyalty, appropriateness, often, ironically enough, are the artists. I mean, when you look at cultural revolutions, whether it be Maoist China or any one of a number of authoritarian regimes, the artists, ironically, are targeted first. They're considered unstable, not with minus purity of thought, and so the type of purge that can take place once the authoritarian regimes actually assume power is often directed inward. And those are the very first people, as it were, to, and I'll use the coalition air quotes, to go. So it's interesting. Your point about an absence of self-examination, I would say self-awareness, is spectacular, because you're right. The irony seems to be deeply missing with Mr. Rollins, and I can't speak much for Joe Biafra anymore, but I have a feeling that this sort of this misplaced enthusiasm for social welfare without examining all the other issues and the baggage that comes along with it it can be pretty dangerous. And people look up to these people, and artists traditionally have always had a lot of sway in the popular culture in supporting, all sorts of movements. We're very active here in the coalition in the effort to decriminalize sex work, and you've got actors and musicians who are using their positions in popular culture to encourage authoritarian responses to non-victim, non-crime consensual acts. And yet, because they what's the term now? Virtue signal? Because it feels good to virtue signal. You're right. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So that's a spectacular point. So how many bands you got going tonight besides yours?
We have 6 bands tonight. We have False Freedom coming from Northern California, Sonora. We have a band called Wreck from Downey. We have a few bands from the Riverside, California area, the Inland Empire, Lovely Creatures, Night Enders, and The Pond. And, of course, you have my band, 390.
Excellent. And by the way, where can we, I'm going to get that stuff on your band out this weekend. Where can we find 390 on the web and, and sample and enjoy your music?
You have to forgive me because I'm driving and if I'm
no problem.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Where can we find you on the web?
We have a website, 390band.com. That's where you can find most of our. Actually, you can find our first CD called Punk Resurrection, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/390band, and we're on all the digital stores like Spotify, iTunes, and places like that. So we're pretty much everywhere. We have an Instagram, 390 Music. We have a Twitter, 390 Band. So we're there. Please check us out. That'd be awesome. And I think that's it.
No, that's great. That's great stuff. I hope you'll send us some pictures from tonight. Take copious pictures and share them with us so we can, again, provide people with a really, outstanding fundraiser. And congratulations and best of luck with it tonight. But get us some pictures. Even if you take any video, get us some video, and we'll share it with the Libertarian nation at large.
We'll definitely do that. And thank you very much, Pat. We appreciate your time and having us on.
All right. Listen, the folks from the Orange County Libertarian Party, we try to get Angela on from the Los Angeles Libertarian Party. We're going to ask her to come on next week to talk about what's going on in L.A., in California, a market that we, really, I don't know if Libertarian nationally we get to understand enough of the dynamics out there, so we're going to stay in touch with these folks. We're going to call it an evening. And again, Ron, thanks for joining us. We are the Coalition, loud and proud. We are outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center. A shout out to our sponsors, Yacht Club Bottling Works, Yacht Club Soda, Rhode Island's boutique soda before we knew we needed boutique soda. Been with us a long time. BeaconShippingAndLogistics.com. We're getting close to back to school. Yeah, I said it. Back to school in a few weeks. So if you're shipping out junior with a car for on campus for the first time and they're far away, and you may not want them driving cross country up and down the coast. You may want to just get that car there quickly and efficiently. BeaconShippingAndLogistics.com, 1-855-3-SHIP-IT. They've been with us since the very beginning. And of course, Air Sciences, airsciences.net, Daryl Gould's Biohazard Attack Team, roaming the streets of New England, fighting mold and a variety of diseases, illnesses, whether it be for your school, hint, hint, Providence, maybe you should need a whole lot of Daryl, your workplace, or even the home. call Air Sciences. Go to airsciences.net. Daryl's got special deals for people who are suffering from autoimmune situations, folks who are in recovery from treatments from cancer, which may have rendered their immune systems weak. He's got some free and heavily discounted service, folks. Reach out to him. We're going to take a break now for the week. We realize that you've got plenty of places to spend your Friday evening or some listening time during the week as you go through our selection of present and past podcasts. Next week is going to be a hell of a show. Chloe Anagnos, again from AIER, is going to be rejoining us. We're going to be tackling, again, the decriminalization of sex work. And don't think for a moment we're going to let Providence continue to get away with this abomination called the Providence Public School System. We'll continue to have subject matter experts on from them. So folks, take it personally. Have a great week.